Hey everyone, welcome back to the series. In this video, I'm going to get in depth about how I studied for the biology, general chemistry, and organic chemistry sections of the DAT. I'm Connor. I'm a second year dental student studying at Roseman University's College of I'm Connor. I'm a second year dental student studying at Roseman University's College of Dental Medicine. And without wasting any time, let's get into it. So real quick, here are my scores for these three sections of the DAT. The biology section was my lowest scoring section on the DAT. And looking back, there are two main reasons why I think this is the case. The first reason being, I just didn't review this material as well as I needed to. And reason number two being, I somewhat consciously decided to focus my efforts on increasing my scores in the other sections of the DAT. There is so much biology material that the DAT covers. It is significantly more material than Gen Chem, organic chemistry, the PAT, or quantitative reasoning, or reading comprehension cover. And so I decided to spend more time trying to improve my scores in those sections and raise my DAT score that way than by trying to learn all of the biology material that's covered on the DAT. I started off just reading Cliff's AP Bio, and that was dull and boring, so I switched to reading DAT Bootcamp's biology notes, which was also boring. I did use DAT Bootcamp for practice questions along with DAT Destroyer, but I didn't do a great job reviewing the questions that I missed and trying to understand the concepts that way. If I had to go back and do it again, which thank goodness I don't, but if I did, I would do the reading from the DAT Bootcamp biology notes and make flashcards based on those notes, and then just review those flashcards like crazy. Or the other approach I would probably take would be to just find flashcards that have already been made and just review like crazy. I'm not someone who learns very well by just reading material. That's why I only did assigned readings for classes if they were mandatory and counted towards our grade. Other than that, I just wouldn't do the readings because it doesn't really help me learn. If you are one of those few lucky people who learn great by reading, good for you. Just go ahead and read the biology notes and you'll be set. If, however, you're like me and don't do very well just by reading, then I would suggest finding some flashcards and go crazy. Just review, review, review. I'm not sure, but DAT Bootcamp may or may not already have sets of flashcards available, so if they do, I would just use those. Like I mentioned in this video, I started off studying 2 days worth of material in a single day, so that I could try and cover a lot of ground and really just be on top of my studies. And I did this for the first 4 weeks or so, and then I took the first practice test, which was a Gen Chem practice test, and got wrecked. And that's not an exaggeration. I did so poorly that when I finished the practice test, the screen came up and it said something to the effect of, "You did so poorly that we couldn't even give you a score below a 14. And when I saw that, I could not believe it. Here I just spent the last 4 weeks studying this material, and apparently I knew none of it. After this, I went from using Chad's videos, which apparently I learned nothing from, to using Mike's videos, and I reviewed all of Mike's Gen Chem videos in a week. Now remember in that video where I said that I suck at counting and I gave myself an 11th week? Well, this is where that week was spent, was reviewing Gen Chem. And thankfully, between that week studying Gen Chem and switching to studying 1 day instead of trying to cover 2 days worth of material, my scores started to improve as I continued doing the practice tests. Just know that it's okay to struggle and to do really poorly in practice tests. It is not the end of the world. Use it as a little bit of motivation to dedicate some extra time to studying that material so that you can improve that weakness and do better in that section. It's okay not to stick exactly to the schedule. Just do your best, but also use it as a way to see where your weaknesses lie and how you can improve them. Something I shared in the 4 tips that I wish I'd known before starting to study for the DAT was I wish I would have taken the DAT the summer after my sophomore year. So if I could go back and do it all over again, I would take my Gen Chem and OChem classes and then a bunch of the biology classes my freshman and sophomore year, and then take the DAT the summer after my sophomore year. So all of that material was relatively fresh. And if you have the opportunity to do this, I would highly recommend taking it because it can set you up for a much easier time filling out your application. You aren't waiting for DAT scores like I had to do. If you are a non-traditional applicant, be sure and give yourself plenty of time to study for the DAT. 3 years was a long time to have not really seen any of this Gen Chem material, and it showed in that first practice test. Just give yourself the time that you need and don't be afraid to dedicate extra time to the subjects that you're struggling with. For the OChem section, I had just finished taking the second part of organic chemistry, and so that material was quite fresh in my mind. And I didn't do as well as I would have liked in my organic chemistry classes. I got a B in the first part and a B- in the second part. So nothing incredible. But I think because those classes were so difficult, along with the material being fresh, that really helped me to have a solid foundation in order to do really, really well in this section of the DAT. Just know that it's not the end of the world if you didn't do very well in these classes. You can still put in time and work and score really, really highly in any and all of these sections of the DAT. To study for this section, I used the practice questions from DAT Bootcamp as well as DAT Destroyer. I made flashcards of all of the reactions that were said to be important for the DAT, and I would review those until I had all of those memorized. And I also used Mike's videos to review this material as well. As I was editing this video, I realized I never explicitly came out and said the things that I would do differently for the Gen Chem and OChem sections, so here that is for you. For the Gen Chem and OChem sections, the things that I would do differently are, like I've said before, but just taking the time to go back and review the questions that I missed, because this would help me to find those fine details and those gaps in my knowledge and understanding, so that instead of getting a 24 or 25, that maybe could have pushed me up to higher scores or even perfect scores. But overall, I am super happy with how I did in these 2 sections, and I can't give enough praise to DAT Destroyer, DAT Bootcamp, and especially Mike for his videos. They absolutely saved me. So back to past me explaining the rest. These 3 sections are really important to score well on. I hope that by applying these tips in your preparation for the DAT, that you can score even higher than I did on the DAT. Not that that's all that hard to do since I got an 18 in the biology section. If you found these videos helpful, please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on the future videos in this series. And share these videos with your friends who are studying for the DAT, or your pre-dental club, or anyone you know who's interested in taking the DAT. Until next time, you stay classy.